Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we got a lot of buffs for a lot of classes. In this video I'll be going over what these buffs are and what they could potentially mean. While I am just a rogue main, I did spend a lot of time with just about every single spec besides majority of tank specs in the game on the beta when it was available, and we only have had minor changes for a few classes since then. So in this video, I'll try to go over what these buffs mean, if they do change anything for you, but overall, it does seem like it's mostly a band-aid patch, hopefully for things to come in patch 8.1, and it seems like there could be a lot of things to adjust and improve in the future. Let's first get this out of the way. Rogues didn't get a single buff. Now, this might be a bad thing for some of you, but I guess we should be happy that we didn't get another week of nerfs, be it straight up damage or Azerite traits. So I guess we should be happy on that front. Still, I do think Subtlety does need a little bit extra buff for PvP. I've seen his damage output, and I feel like it's just not that consistent. Of course, in arenas, when you have all the control in the world, you don't really need consistency of damage, but in the past, it did feel good to have control and consistent damage whenever you wanted. So with Blizzard kind of yanking that out of the playstyle altogether, with big nerfs to Shadow Strike and Eviscerate, I'm still hoping for like maybe a 5%, maybe even a small 10% for Shadow Strike buff, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Blizzard does with that in the future. Now let's get on to the buffs. The first buff we have is actually pretty influential. It is for Shamans. Elemental Shamans should be pretty happy, as Blizzard is already taking steps forward in order to make your spec feel a little bit better, primarily in PvE and single target. Now, Shamans are getting a buff for Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Earthquake by flat 15%. This is actually pretty big and major for Shamans. Shamans are going to be transitioning in patch 8.1 to a more consistent playstyle rather than running around and earth-shocking the world to death. You are going to be doing a lot more Lightning Bolts, those other abilities will start to matter a lot more, and this is just one of those steps to make Shamans feel a little bit better. This is going to help Shamans in raid environment for single target with the buffs to Lightning Bolt, as well as AoE with the buffs to Chain Lightning as well as Earthquake. I feel that most Shamans in PvP won't really notice a huge difference, but these are buffs to come with the other Shaman buffs in patch 8.1, so just wait for those and I think you'll be mighty happy with what you get. Outside of Elemental, we did get a 5% damage buff for Enhancement. It doesn't address any of the issues with Enhance, it just flatline buffed them. Then we have also a Restoration Shaman buff. Restoration Shamans have been reported to be a little bit on the weaker side of healers for PvP or PvE. They're giving them an overall buff by 4%. Healing Surge in particular is getting an extra 6% buff to healing, as well as slightly reduced mana cost. This is to hopefully help Shamans a little bit more with the throughput in terms of trying to keep up tanks as well as other DPS, mostly in PvE situations. I've actually been with a Restor Shaman in the past, and in Mythic Pluses, it was a little bit difficult to maintain a tank compared to some of the other healers. So hopefully this is more of a band-aid, but I don't think this is a huge fix for the spec itself. Then we got a nice buff to Warlock for Demonology, the one spec that I was super excited about, but I don't see a lot of people playing it or imploring it. Shadowbolt, Dreadstalkers, and Demon Bolt are both increased by 15% worth of damage. You are to expect a bit more single target DPS, primarily for PvE fights, and for PvP this might be a little bit more oomph for you, where most of your damage does still come from you summoning demons and getting your demon wombo combos, so you might not notice a huge, tremendous difference overall. We also got a nice buff for Protection Warriors, mostly to bring them up to the level of other tanks. As far as I've seen, Protection Warriors haven't really been the most popular or the first pick tank, besides Blood Death Knight, Demon Warlock, and Brewmaster Monks, which are some of the first tanks to come to my mind as some of the better or more reliable tank choices. Warriors for Protection are getting a nice 5% buff for Vanguard, which now increases armor by 50% of strength instead of 45, so 5% more armor to deal with melee damage. And Vanguard also increases stamina by 40% with 35, so it's a 5% to armor off of your strength, so that can scale, as well as a 5% stamina buff in general to help you deal with more magical situations. I don't think this is going to make Prot Warrior the pick all of a sudden, but at least it's a nice band-aid. Then we got a small buff to Shadow Priest for Mindflay and Mindseer. Mindflay getting a fat 10% buff and Mindseer getting a fatty 15% buff. These are actually nice, although I'm not really sure if this is going to help Shadow Priest. This is definitely going to make Mindseer a little bit better as an AoE ability, and Mindflay is going to feel slightly better for that filler. Then we also have a lot of band-aid buffs is what I call them. These are just fat buffs for certain classes, just a flat percent increase that doesn't address any specific issues with some of these classes. So we got Unholy with a 4% buff for both you and your pet damage. You got Feral Druids with a 4% buff as well, and Fire Mages with a 5% all damage buff. Now these buffs are band-aid buffs. I feel like they are not to address any kind of specific issues with the class or the specs quite yet. I feel like we will have patch 8.1 for those kind of situations and deals. With the big changes coming out to Elemental Shaman, for example, I feel like Blizzard is going to take a look at some of the other specs, and I feel like maybe the band-aid buffs that are getting right now, maybe for Restoration Shaman and Demon Warlock and Fire Mage, Feral Druid, and Holy Death Knight, maybe there'll be certain things that Blizzard will take a look at the specs again once patch 8.1 is in PTR for people to test. Maybe they're even taking a look at things now, trying to figure out how to balance it, and it might be up for testing very soon. So definitely, if you're one of those classes that's just getting a band-aid fat percent buff, it's worth definitely checking out patch 8.1 PTR or downloading PTR early in order to have access to it so you can copy your character and test settings once your character has some sort of updates for their class. Overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this type of update. I don't know if you want to see more updates like these for any class changes. If you guys want to see stuff like this more in the future, like some kind of a Tuesday recap of everything that is new for all classes in the game, please let me know. Also, I do have an idea of maybe trying to cover more classes besides Rogue. I like to play a lot of classes in the game, and I remember back in Legion I would play so many different alts, and I always wanted to make guides and videos on them because I would spend the time to actually learn how to play majority of those alt characters and alt classes. So let me know in the comments below if you guys would be interested in something like this to see how any of the alts play. Maybe if you want to see a guide from your boy Dalaran in the future, that would be very, very exciting for me to do and to try out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in the next video.